Okay, you're good to go.
Hey everybody, welcome to our February meeting of the Athens Cultural Affairs Commission. For the ones of folks tuning in remotely who aren't part of the commission, thanks for joining in. So why don't we just get started by approving our January minutes. Can I get a motion to approve our January minutes?
A lot of people muted. Y'all gonna have to unmute to speak up.
Donna makes a motion to approve the January minutes.
Thanks, Donna. Can I get somebody to second?
Second.
Perfect. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Great. Anybody opposed? Wonderful. Okay. I was hoping to do that before Helen joins and tell me I did it wrong. So we have a good bit of new news. Firstly, the public art coordinator position was posted this morning. So that is now listed as the newest job opening in our local government. So congrats to all of us for getting this far. That's been literally years in the making. So that's no small task. We have an opportunity. I sent it out in an email a few weeks ago for a T-SPLOST project. It's a $500,000 project, and 1% of that is $5,000 for intersection improvements. And you know, the SPLOST office identified Bishop Park, a sidewalk entrance to Bishop Park, as maybe the likeliest location for public art. So I would like to hear how we think we should proceed or not proceed with this opportunity. In email, Madeline weighed in that she's a big fan of lots of little projects, and philosophically, I absolutely am too. I am not one to pass on an opportunity. Dee Dee had a comment in the email that I would actually like her to elaborate on a little bit. And it was in the past at the $5,000 range, ACAC has commissioned work from a selected artist. Dee Dee, can you elaborate on that a little more?
Sure. I'm sorry I can't seem to start my. If you can all hear me, that'll do. This is that ACAC did years ago when I was actually a commissioner, was the decision at a $5,000 level, if it was deemed appropriate and feasible to include art at that scale of pricing, that another option would be to commission the said work based on the restrictions of the site and the budget. The example that was done when I was there, as when I was a commissioner, and I think that Marilyn and maybe Holly remember, is that we commissioned 2 paintings for the animal shelter by a local painter who paints animals. And they worked with the animal shelter staff and some people and went through a series of drawings like you would in any commission, you know, one design change, and it was accepted, and those 2 works were made. And it was because it had very limited space, 2 very small walls, and enough for 2 small paintings. And at that price of $5,000, it was not doable to run a large call. So that's the one example that you know of in that. And I don't know if Holly would have another example, but that was an option for something of that scale. And site needs. So when you say the corner, I've driven by there, I'm not quite sure what the actual site is, but if it needs a bench that would be inspired, created by an artist, like, then just the commission would work that way. I also want to say, was Harold Rittenberry's Rock Springs piece a commission? That also could have been a call. That's it. Oh, Andrew, you're muted.
Yes, I see that. Is it under a $10,000 commission threshold that we are able to commission an individual artist?
That's the number we've been working with. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes, I can add that we also commissioned that way for, I believe, the police evidence room.
Mhm.
There was
Yes,
a painting or two done for that.
that's right, Holly. Exactly. Was it Yvonne?
Didovan. Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
And
Yeah.
and I believe Harold's bench and freeze at the pool
Right.
was also.
Yeah, I'm
done that
sorry.
way.
It wasn't. Yeah, it is Rock Springs. Yes.
Mhm.
Yep. That's correct.
I have a question about these commissions. Does that change the dynamic? Like, do they still need to have the insurance? I know that was something we've been dialoguing about a little bit related to Dudley Park. So if we commission the artist, does that mean we cover some of those extra expenses, and we just commission the work for hire, so to speak?
So that insurance thing is an installation issue.
Okay.
So something like hanging a painting is not, a staff member could do that. So that's not. I don't think that would
But
be
a
an
bench
issue with
outside or
this.
piece
But
of
a
art.
bench outside, if the artist is installing it, they're going to need to be insured. Yeah.
Just something, if we're keeping the budget
Yeah.
low like that, it's something to consider. What are the other expenses that might come with performing or like creating a work in situ? Like, do they need insurance or installing work, things like that, that might just eat up the money.
Yeah.
So that the
That's
artist.
a good point, Stephanie.
So
Because that's something that happened is going on with the Dudley Park mosaic with Krisha, is that she has to, even though she's only doing, maybe a week or two of on-site installation, she has to have insurance for the whole year.
Yeah, I want us all to be aware of that requirement. That was kind of new to us.
Yeah, I was not aware of that requirement, and I think it's because a lot of the artists that have done that kind of work previously are artists that, are doing full-time public art work and, those large installations and have that kind of insurance. But if you're doing smaller projects or projects that don't require it, you wouldn't necessarily carry that level of liability insurance. So just something to consider when we have these projects. If an artist is expected to install them, they do have that requirement from SPLOST. So
I have a question. Oh
yeah.
Tatiana, you said.
So,
Go ahead, Dee Dee. I'll play traffic cop.
well, I was just going to say, there's always going to be a cost that needs to be affiliated with the commission. So for instance, the animal shelter needed special plexi covering on the bottom because the dogs would get up there. So like that was, so that it was a site need. So built into the commission, there has to be like, a budget for the site needs based on what the work is going to be. Sorry.
Yeah, that's a good point. We usually will contract, we'll leave a little bit of money out of the contract as like, set aside for those kinds of things that might creep up. My question was whether, Tatiana, you mentioned that a painting, like hanging a painting would not require the insurance. And I'm wondering for Bishop if that would extend to something like, a sidewalk mural or, just something not a bench, but something almost like that.
I say I don't. I mean, who knows? Maybe technically, hanging a painting does need that insurance. I don't know. I guess it depends on whether the artist is hanging it or an ACC staff person is hanging it. That might make the difference.
My understanding is your contract labor, who would be the artist, provides any kind of labor service on site. They must be self-insured, whether it's doing a sidewalk chalk or whatever it happens to be, unless it's done by city officials, central services, park services, whatever that happens to be. But it's a rule of contract labor, basically.
Yeah.
What about, we've had some examples of, like with our Music Walk of Fame, where an artist designed something that could go in a sidewalk, but the city actually installed it. And I'm wondering if maybe with this budget, and I think even at like the Sandy Creek Park, there's been special tiles, artist design tiles that were made, and then again, they were kind of like embedded in the sidewalk. I'm wondering if that might be a possibility. So if we're talking about Bishop, although Bishop has buildings as well, if we, want to go inside with it.
Claire, could you clarify the location? I live in the area, but I'm looking at a Google map, but I cannot wrap my head around it. Is it at the intersection of Hawthorne and Oglethorpe, or is it closer down to where like the like ballparks are?
Sunset. Yeah. I have no idea.
Okay, we're not sure.
I think if you had a proposal and like an idea of a budget and a timeline, I can probably find out about but I need to be kind of specifically, if you're going to put it in the pavement's one thing, if you're going to install it in like, it's a 3-dimensional sculpture, that's a different thing than installing something on the exterior of a building in Bishop Park versus the interior. So like, I can do some research about that and follow up and find out.
And here's another question is if there are buildings nearby, even though this is an intersection improvement project, could the 1% for art go to a concept that is integrated into a nearby building, let's say a mural?
I don't know.
That sounds like a SPLOST question, maybe, or the commissioners, whoever approved the intersection improvement project to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
We ran into this though with Hot Corner when we talked about putting it on a non-county building, that we would need basically like a lifetime lease or something like that to be able to do that.
If it's in the park, that's a moot point, probably.
Yeah, and it was something that, okay, sorry.
I just want to say too that the buildings in Bishop Park are on a schedule, and it is a schedule that goes way, way out into the future to be remodeled or redone, because a lot of those buildings were built a long time ago. So that's just something to bear in mind. Like, what's the time? If we did put something on the exterior of the building, I would need to double check to see, is that building expecting any improvements? Is it budgeted even far out for some kind of SPLOST improvements? Because we have there's a whole schedule for the entire county about when we do work and build things or rebuild things. So I would just want to double check that as well. So
another option is to increase the budget from 5 to 10,000 from our own discretionary funds, whether that's our annual capital budget or our SPLOST 2011 budget. We have funds to turn fairly trivial art fund, project-based funds into a more meaningful one.
When do they need to have an answer, Andrew?
They wrote me a few weeks ago and haven't bugged me yet for an answer, so
I'm just wondering if maybe we can get we can look at the site.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Might be like a mini feasibility study. We might even be able to get some students to do it over in landscape architecture or something,
Or even a few of us could just go on the weekend and walk the site, look at specific SPLOST proposal and see what we can come up with.
So Andrew, I read that, and as I understood it, the improvement is actually at the intersection of Oglethorpe and Hawthorne, but it didn't look like there was a feasible location for art and art installations. So it was discretionary to move it up the street to the intersection of Sunset. Is that?
That's
what
my understanding. Is that judgment call had already been made by SLOST as a possibility.
And so at that intersection, there's the big giant corner that is the park, and then across the street is the Jared York development.
Mm-hmm.
And then Murder House is catty corner. So that's that intersection, correct?
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you for clarifying that. I was almost there, and I just needed the dots connected.
There, I thought so. I wanted to just throw that out there.
I have to
Is
touch
it not
base.
possible to have that, to look in the park itself? Is that off the table?
That's a question we have.
Yeah, I would love for that table. I think we all would.
Yeah. I mean, that seems like there are a lot more opportunities in the park, and I'm not sure that be on the right of way is exactly the best place for art.
I'll talk to, I have to touch base with SPLOST about some other stuff tomorrow, so I can get some clarification on the site and how specific that is, and I can take some pictures and send those out to everyone of this site, and we could, if we need to meet up and take a look.
Yeah, I love that.
Do that.
And I want to consider if we do have more options within the park. I think the $10,000 threshold is meaningful for us, and I want to share the Dudley Park project as an example. That was exactly $10,000. We had 5 submissions. All were local. All were mural or mosaic concepts. All of them were new artists to us, so artists that we hadn't commissioned outside our Arts and Community Awards. So I would like to suggest that we double the budget through either one of our discretionary funds and really consider something meaningful here, because why pass on this opportunity? Anybody opposed to increasing the budget from 5 to 10,000?
I guess I would just be curious, Darcy, how much room we have that's not earmarked already in our, are we talking about SPLOST 21 funds?
It could be capital budget, which is
Right now we have about almost 51,000 left in that one. Unless I'm missing, I don't think anything is earmarked in that one aside from the remaining 14,000 of the resiliency awards.
Should we
And are
maybe get some more clarification on the site and flexibility before we worry about budget?
Yes, let's do that first.
Yeah.
And are we having we had talked about a website overhaul / update for next year, fiscal year. Is that coming out of our operational, or is that earmarked in that discretionary?
I think that would have to be operation funds.
Because it's not a capital project, so it would
Because
have
it's
to be.
labor. I don't know. I don't know how that qualifies.
Okay. Yeah, that makes, okay.
So how about this? We explore other possibilities.
Oh, sorry. When we had talked about it before, I think we kept putting it off because it had to come out of the operating budget, and we didn't have it.
So how about this? We explore other possibilities offline. Tatiana will lead that with the SPLOST office and bring me in if necessary. And if we do have multiple opportunities, we consider increasing the budget. Does that make sense? And we'll just make the decisions we have to make over the next month on that front without having to meet again as a full body. Cool.
That is an interesting concept of, with the capital budget, it's supposed to be something that's physical, right?
Yes.
So then what constitutes physical? Sorry, the dog is chewing on a toy. Because like a website, I mean, some could argue it is physical, no?
It's not physical in the sense that it's a capital project.
All right. Trying to get around the...
I know, I'm
No,
right there with
actually,
you.
the issue was that we'd be paying for the labor, you know, more than the thing. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's, but I don't know. Maybe that's just some creative. We could just do some creative bookkeeping. I don't know.
We don't do super creative bookkeeping, which we'll get to in a minute. Anybody have anything else to add on this possible intersection improvement project?
Do we know what the intersection improvement is going to be?
I don't. I'm sure it's on the SPLOST 2011 page. I just didn't do my.
Well, it's a T-SPLOST, right?
I think it was regular SPLOST
You
2011.
said T-SPLOST.
I did say T-SPLOST at first, and then I went back and saw his email.
The email just says SPLOST 2011.
Okay.
And it says the project is to replace, I don't know if this is what you mean, I might have misunderstood you, but it says the project is to replace signals, poles, and realign some of the lanes, some of the turn lanes for better movement, which is someone who uses that intersection every day. I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, it's a
and it
mess.
says any new pavement will be minimal. So it's kind of just
Well,
side of things.
where is the sidewalk entrance to Bishop Park?
I kind of was perceiving it like Jan was.
Park.
Yeah, it's like at the other end of the block. I think that's the only corner of
Like
Bishop
near
Park.
Sunset?
Yes, it's
Yeah,
the
that's
corner.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's
that
what
was
I
the
thought.
corner that they were talking about.
Okay.
So yeah, Tatiana is going to get clarification if that is actually what the email meant, if we're interpreting
That's
it
what
right.
clarification means.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And then also like, does it have to be there? Could it be somewhere else? She's gonna get clarification.
I'll
How
scout
about
the
this?
report
If there
back.
is no straightforward answer and we have to walk the site, who wants to do that with me? Okay, cool.
I do.
I'll go, Andrew. That's stomping grounds for sure.
Okay, great. That's a good number. Thank you, y'all. Fun. And one more bit of news from me before I turn it over to Darcy. And I would like our future vice chair to unmute themselves and introduce herself.
I'm gonna see if my video will. Oh, look, there's good lighting. My cat is here with me, so just excuse her. But hi, I'm Patrice Green. And I'm very, very happy, a little nervous, but very happy to serve in this capacity. Might need some hand holding, but that's okay. I'm here to learn. It's gonna be a good time. Please always correct me if I'm ever wrong about anything.
Great. I should have tried that months ago. Thanks, Patrice, for stepping up. We had discussed this earlier today, and she's happy to rise to the occasion. Cool. Technically, that would start April 1st, Patrice. Our terms end on March 31st, and we'll talk about that towards the end of our meeting. Okay, Darcy.
All right. That was good timing. I couldn't find my car keys that my husband needed to take the car. I was like, oh, great, I'm going to have to speak and I'm going to have to go find the car keys, but we found them. But anyway, so we had a little issue with the operating budget, and I know we mentioned it last time, but I kind of was able to understand it a little bit better this time. And basically we had a former staff member didn't get basically the contracts sent out the way that they were supposed to, so the payments didn't go out. And so they ended up coming out with this year's budget rather than with last year's budget. So we ended up leaving some money in our budget last year, and money was coming back to us, which is not happening. And so basically we have about $2,000 left in our operating budget that has to get us through for the next few months. And now, so that's kind of the bad news, but the good news is that we have the 51,000 in the capital budget, and our SPLOST budget is 282,000, but a lot of that is earmarked for things. So at this point, I guess we just have to figure out what we're going to do in this kind of interim period when we don't have a lot of money in the operating budget and we don't have yet a full-time person to do the job. So that's kind of.
Here's what that means operationally. So last year we had some extra room in our budget, and we'd done 2 additional arts and community awards. So we did, instead of our normal 3 at 4,500 total, we had 5 at 7,500 total, which was great when that was coming out of last year's fiscal budget. Since there was a mistake made on our end, that unfortunately means an additional 7,500 out of this year's fiscal budget. So what that means is no arts and community awards this spring. However, we are doing the 50 that are currently ongoing, which is 47 more than usual. So you know, it is a not great situation for sure. And I think we've all learned a good bit from it. It's not a mistake that's going to haunt us, though. So it will be a little painful for the next few months. Might have to be a little more watchful over Tatiana's hours, depending on when the full-time permanent position does start. And probably 0 arts and community awards this year, this spring, an additional cycle. So that's what I foresee operationally. But
And just to be clear, that the staff member, the pay, like to pay for the full-time person, that doesn't come out of our budget. That comes out of somebody out of the city budget. So we don't have to worry about that piece of it.
Right.
And when is the end of the fiscal year?
It ends in July, I believe.
Last day of June.
So start date for the new fiscal year would be July 1.
So 4 full months and what's left of February. So I guess what that means is give me and Darcy as much heads up as possible if you foresee any, if you haven't foreseen any additional expenses.
And we really don't have that many expenses aside from Tatiana, which is invaluable, I know. And I don't want you to have to cut any hours because I know we need you so desperately. But you know, at least we're not like frivolously spending money anywhere else. So
Right. Okay. Projects.
Yes, projects. Okay. Lots of projects in the works. Good stuff. So I'm going to start out with the Whitehall Roundabout. I believe the contract is, it says, as the agenda says, is now with City Hall.
It's a city, yes.
Yep.
Johnny signed that last week, and so that is in the works. So
she is under contract.
Yay! So that's wonderful. You know, that one kind of had a couple of different budget issues, actually, not on our side, but just the
Right.
cost of things with COVID. And, you know, we just had to have a little bit of going back and forth with the artists and the city to work out making sure that we can cover the cost, current cost of that project. So glad to hear that it is signed and underway. Then we have, let's see. So, you know, that is that was the Whitehall one roundabout statue. Then we have Fire Station 2, and I believe that one we're looking at a March, opening. What do we call that?
Or March install, I think.
I mean, it's already there,
yeah.
right? So it's a reveal in March or what?
Unveiling is what I call it. Unveiling. It's when you unveil
An unveiling.
it. The ribbon or whatever we do.
Yeah.
Right. So if there's going to be a ribbon cut or anything, we definitely need to get the long dormant outreach committee revamped. Is it you, Tatiana, now?
I'm the outreach committee.
So we need to revamp the outreach committee because it is time to do a ribbon cutting.
An idea is that our vice chair would chair the outreach committee moving forward.
Oh, nice. That sounds perfect.
I'm sorry. Can we just clarify? Are we talking about the chicken or are we talking about the fire? Right next to each other?
Oh, my bad. We're talking about cooperative extension, the chicken.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Well, the chicken's still in progress. We were talking about the fire station.
Okay, fire station. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're talking
Fire
about
station
the unveiling. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Nope. Yep. And I got those confused. So I'm sorry about that. Because I'm so used to seeing the chicken is actually
the fire
so
station
close.
is not actually, that piece isn't there. At least last I heard it wasn't there.
Right.
It's being installed in March.
Okay. So it's being
the chicken is there being worked on in progress on site.
Yes.
And last I saw it was getting its skin.
Yes. And they also had given us a March estimate for installation. Oh wait, no, that was, sorry. I'm still looking up. I'm confusing my notes. So that was fire. Yeah.
It should be finished in March.
Oh, okay. Good. Okay. Then that I didn't know.
Yeah.
So I guess we need to talk about I'll leave it to Patrice to raise an outreach committee and talk about, whether or not you want to have, I think originally the idea is that there'd be separate ribbon cuttings because each of those stakeholder groups, are kind of separate.
Different vibe for each one.
Yeah. So,
for lack of a better term, just very different
Okay. That sounds good. And Tatiana, I may get with you on that.
Absolutely.
Because I don't want to step on your toes or anything.
No.
I just want to make sure.
I think there'll be some enthusiasm for having a ribbon cutting and a thing because a lot of people are excited about the chicken. That was also a brand new building, which actually we should double check because I'm not sure people are being able to work in that building. I think they had something happen there and they're all working from home, but I could be wrong. They might be back in March, but I know that I think the people who work in that building were displaced due to something unforeseen. And that's a new commissioner as well. It's a commissioner who, might appreciate, and just some folks on that side of town often are looking for more opportunities to highlight the West Side. So
yeah,
I'd be interested in joining that conversation, Patrice, when you put together, if you could invite me.
So with the popularity of both with the fire station having so many firemen involved and having it more of a memorial type piece, and then the chicken just being, that's going to just be a really popular piece. Should we do some kind of virtual ceremony and wait and do an in-person thing later on when it's safer? Because it would be a shame to not do anything, but at the same time, I could see both those events being really popular for different reasons.
That's what we should talk about in the outreach meeting.
Yeah.
Let's
We'll discuss it.
If we did have a person cap, what would that look like? Because we talk about this kind of stuff in, all the time. So how to have events.
Yeah, I think
super
the
spreader.
Greenway had ribbon cutting. I'd have everybody-
Sorry, Helen, your audio's cutting out. I can't hear you.
Well, I think the Greenway has done some, or the Firefly some.
No, a little bit. It's kind
No?
of yeah. You're
Weird. The Greenway has had invitation only ribbon cuttings.
Oh, you're gone again. I don't know what's
weird.
going on there.
Sorry.
Type it in the chat.
Okay. I'll chat.
But I'm sure we can figure out a compromise, and we might be able to do some fun live stream because we're close enough to a building with Wi-Fi. We could do like a Facebook Live with a handful of people, maybe, and then you know, we can do something, I think, to get people to know that it's there. They can go and see it, and also create some excitement for the folks that are there.
Right. I could see Helen. Yeah.
Helen says
Helen
has had an invitation only in-person ribbon cutting. Yes. So we could do something like that, have invitation only, and maybe encourage people like a social media campaign that's like me and the big chicken, and have like people post on Instagram or something fun like that.
That's
So
true.
get people to drive out to see it.
Yeah.
Something fun that gets people to come out, but in a safe, distanced way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
Yeah,
perfect.
everyone's gonna want a selfie with that chicken.
Yeah.
I mean, it's gonna be good. It's our
Yeah, that chicken's gonna have its own hashtag for sure.
It's the I keep calling it the cooperative chicken because that way I can remember.
Oh, cute.
Chicken's cooperative.
Oh, co-op and coop is kind of a fun little word play.
Oh my gosh.
There you go. See. Oh.
Hey Patrice, I just
see that chicken's
sorry to interrupt, Holly. Hey Patrice, I just want to say I'm interested in the outreach committee if you want to tag me in on anything.
Yay. Anyone else, just let me know as well.
Awesome. Yeah, you know, and let's not forget, you know, Music Walk of Fame hasn't really had a full-on opening either in our normal way. So, I mean, I know people are doing the selfie thing with that as well, and we've done some kind of virtual type opening introduction with the mayor and everything, and some of the artists, but that's another one I think, you know, that we've talked about. That's eventually wanting to a do-over on.
Has the cooperative extension building had its own grand opening?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
It did. Yeah. Yeah, that happened some months ago. I'm trying to remember cooperative extension.
Yeah, because they use that for a polling place.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, I know. I just meant, did they have a event?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It was in the before time, so you know that that was when Commissioner Neesmith was with us, so they definitely had a big ribbon cutting. I didn't go to it, but I've seen the pictures and I kind of remember hearing about it. I've been to the site a couple times, so they definitely had it open and a ribbon cutting, and it's a LEED certified building. They're very proud of it. It's a really nice building.
So if it's okay, I'll move on about Dudley Park. I know, Tatiana, you mentioned it already having some issues with insurance. So I guess the agenda says the contract is still pending.
Contract is pending. We were gonna sign last week, like right after I did Johnny's, but there was just a little, you know, hiccup with insurance stuff. But we're ready to go again. I'm meeting with her on Thursday tentatively to sign everything, and then she'll be under contract as well. Yeah, so she got the insurance and everything. She had just there had to be a conversation with Keith about making some really slight modifications to her design to kind of, you know, stay under budget and everything with the added you know, the added cost that wasn't expected. But as far as I know, everything's back on schedule and just a week off. So
Awesome. I'm so glad that was able to be worked out. And hopefully the artist is excited about moving forward. I know no one wants to cut back their designs, but that was wonderful of her to be willing to work with us on that. Then we have, let's see, check my notes here. We've got the Clayton Street. So I went to the public information session on Clayton Street, I guess a couple of weeks ago, where Eric Lashinsky was there, and he talked about his design and kind of where he's at in the process, his visit to Athens in December, and he is now, he got some public input from that visit, and he is now going to be presenting to the mayor and commission the kind of final concept. So that's, I believe, going to happen later this month.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Tomorrow, I'll be on the call with him.
Yes. Okay.
So yeah, we had a public info session on the 20th. Not a huge turnout because it was inauguration night. Not really super well planned, but it was like, hey, we all have this date available, and that was why. But anyway, so still went well in that, he got a chance to kind of run through his presentation, kind of, a little bit of practice from him. He got a little bit of feedback, not a ton. And then we posted it on our website and asked for feedback as well, and on our socials and everything. Again, not a ton of feedback, kind of all the same sort of feedback, just, oh, make sure he doesn't make anything that people trip over. So, everyone's on the same page with that. So, so hopefully that will go forward smoothly. Andrew's going to be introducing him for that meeting. Right, Andrew? Yes.
Yep. Yeah, 'cause it's difficult. We selected the art in fall of 2017. And, a lot of our mayor and commission, although it was approved by the mayor and commission, a lot of them weren't the decision makers at the time. So, I'll be there just to kind of reintroduce the concept and remind the mayor and commission that this has been approved by the mayor and commission. There's also another tweak to the concept that Eric has made, that I thought is worth mentioning, and it's the inclusion of lyrics into the metal pipes. It could be a really cool development, and make it more interactive, and make it even more of a destination. It certainly localizes the concept, and takes it from an abstract series of tubes that might, that will define the cityscape, but also serve as some infrastructure, or the foundation of some infrastructure like bike racks and pull-up bars and the like. But the poetry concept, or the lyrics concept, I think is worth pitching to the mayor and commission. He's taken it out. He thought it was a little too unwieldy to get design approval tomorrow in addition to this concept of lyrics. But if we think that, as a body, if we think that that's worth considering, I will encourage Eric to include it back in for discussion tomorrow.
How do the lyrics graded into his concept?
Do you have the slide?
He thought of it one day. I can find it.
He showed it in his presentation, and it looked really good, I thought.
Yeah, on the structural tube pieces that kind of, are, go in and out and up and down throughout the corridor. There are these tubes, these metal tubes. So theoretically, lyrics or poetry could go on those tubes. Keith brought up a good point, that just the fact that there wasn't any, that we didn't have the exact lyrics or words to approve as part of the concept, that we shouldn't add that variable because it would just create more questions and discussion during the meeting. Whereas this could be something that could potentially be added on to later. It could be integrated into our Music Walk of Fame or the Poet Laureate thing. Maybe those lyrics aren't permanent on there. They could be, put on and taken off, and change with different programming opportunities that, are more word based. So there's just kind of two sides to it. I think it would be somewhat easy to add it on later, but it's probably going to be hard to get approval on something as a variable like that without any.
I was going to ask if he had specific ideas for the lyrics or whatever
He opened that up
source
for public comment, and we haven't got any direct feedback on that yet.
And then can you clarify so the tubing, I don't know what size it is. I've seen the old rendering, but would it be something like vinyl or etching? It would be like literally like on the tube. You're not saying it'd be like something that's made out of tube.
Right.
No, it would just be on there, painted on there.
Or
I
paint,
think.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking more paint than like an etched thing. But I mean, I guess it could be. If it was etched, it would be more permanent. But
I'm pulling it up. Give me a second. My computer's taking a while. Feel free to move on to more projects, and I'll share a screen when I can.
Okay. Well, the next project to discuss is the Greenway, and I did not attend that one. That one had the selection panel that met on January 25th. So I would love to hear from some of you who were there. I know that you're down to some finalists, but where do we stand?
yes. So as it stands now, there were 3 designs that were kind of our 3 finalists. There's a few questions and things to kind of clarify on each of those designs from a maintenance perspective, from a safety perspective, etc. So we have sent those artists those questions and are giving them about a week to get back to us with their answers, and then we're going to go back and do another review or meeting or something along those lines once we get that information. So,
and is that some kind of like structural review through the engineer's office and the planners, or is that just fielding questions?
Most of these questions came from ACC staff in terms of maintenance and safety issues and things like that. So
these were questions that came up from that original selection conversation. So we thought we would address some of them more broadly between each artist, collect the responses, and then we'll have a little bit more prepared for when we have the new selection event where we have just the 3 works of art. We'll have a little more detailed sort of dossier, if you will, on each one, and we can sort of address some of these concerns. So we wanted to make sure that we're really moving projects to the next selection level that are very viable. And so we asked some questions about the sourcing of the material, the surface, and some of those questions about safety. See how they respond.
Perfect, thank you. Do we have a date for the next round?
not as of yet. Stephanie?
Or kind of a timeline in mind?
We have talked about who we would like to have in the second selection committee, and therefore we need to reach out and find out like if this time frame works. But we were hoping to do it before the end of the month, so we're going to work on that and see if we can put something together for the end of February, very early March. And it should be pretty straightforward since it's 3 works they'll be selecting from.
Okay, and I assume that it'll basically be the same selection panel I think that was Patrice and Donna. Did you guys end up being the ones that were the ACAC members there?
So which panel was this for? Is this coming?
I was. Donna
I was,
Donna
I
and
was
Darcy.
half of it.
Okay.
It was Donna,
So-
Darcy, and Montu were.
Oh, they ended up, okay.
Yep.
And Helen there too?
Okay,
Helen
cool.
went
Don't
too?
scare me like that.
Yes.
and Helen.
Okay. Of course. All right, wonderful. So end of February target on that one. Andrew, looks like you got that pulled up now.
Yeah. So you guys see my screen. It talked about in 2 slides. So, here's the concept. Here's how it sandblasted into the tubing itself, or even into nearby concrete. I mean, it's a little unwieldy and not super fleshed out as a concept. I do think it would be a fairly cost-effective way to localize the concept, as I said.
Was there a discussion about having permission to use the lyrics?
That's another valid concern, Donna.
Yeah,
Non-commercial purposes. I'm not an attorney. However,
Either.
there's got to be a fair use provision that would apply.
For that, I'm
I don't
not
know.
sure. I'm
That's a
not
great
sure.
question.
Yeah, so
Because
maybe,
it's going to be part of a piece of art,
Yeah,
then those copyright worlds might not be
Yeah.
friends.
correct.
it's
Correct.
like you
See,
have to do
again-
it for educational purposes, or you have to like really, really, really change it and be like inspired
Yeah.
by it. But that's really subjective, and so that would be very complicated. So is that a thing? Like, how likely is it that something like that could be added on later, like Tatiana was suggesting? Like, is that something that's we've seen done before?
I think it would be easier to add it on later. I think the fact that there's so many questions like we're having right now, it's going to derail that whole
Let's
presentation.
do that. Let's do that. I'm glad we considered it. I
mean, it's
won't
a
lose
great
sleep over
idea,
it.
but again, it's like
I love the idea.
Yeah,
There's
me
going to be
too.
enough questions tomorrow that I think Eric is really about getting through tomorrow, but without introducing this curveball. So, as we were 10 minutes ago, sorry.
All right. So then I recall at our last meeting with the Play On Athens painted pianos project that somebody was looking into the UGA art school taking this over.
they want to take it over, and we gave them our blessing.
And so it's been handed off.
As far as I know, yeah. I mean, that was Misha was as a representative of the UGA Art Association as a.
Tatiana, can you check in with Misha just to
Yeah,
confirm?
I'll double check, but yeah, she said she would pass that along. They wanted to take that off our hands, and we were more than happy to.
So does that include the we're talking about the pianos, right? So does that include the existing pianos or just?
No, the existing pianos are still,
Ours.
county property. They're
Okay.
ours, but they were just in terms of doing more calls and priming all pieces of those pianos. They can handle all that, moving them.
Thank you for.
Yes, and I think too they were gonna maybe get some students to or faculty, whatever, at the music school to kind of have a look at maintenance, a maintenance schedule, that kind of thing, for the pianos in the project. So that would be great. Just
For the existing pianos, Holly?
Yep, for the existing and future pianos. Awesome. Well, and I believe, so are we no longer even keeping tabs on the 2 new ones that are at the high schools to be painted? That's all completely.
I think because of COVID and not having the students, doing in person, they were just, not getting utilized. So I don't think they're, they didn't get painted or anything like that. I don't even know if they if they left the donors. I know Andrew has one or had one.
Yeah, I still do.
Okay,
Yeah.
Andrew, you're still storing one of them?
Yeah.
I thought I'm pretty sure one of them got delivered.
Yes, to Clarke High School, I think. Yes. Yeah, because I paid for 2 moves, one to Clarke, another to my house.
Okay, thank you. So Tatiana, just, for the record, if you learn anything new from Misha, let me know.
Yeah.
And I'll update it for my handoff.
I didn't know she wouldn't be on tonight, but
Sure, yeah.
I'll talk about Poet Laureate too. Is that next?
It can be.
Okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to me.
Go ahead.
So there is an info session next Tuesday at 6, virtually, hosted by Misha, along with the selection committee for the Poet Laureate program, just to answer any questions, PowerPoint, just to kind of basically go through all the info needed for the application and what would the duties look like and what could some other potential duties be, and any other questions anyone has. So that's posted on our website. That's also posted on our website and the ACC Gov website. It's a Zoom meeting link, not a WebEx. But same thing. I think you can pre-register to get a reminder.
Excellent. So, that's fabulous. Thank you so much, whoever helped put that together. I know that's going to make I'm sure there's a lot of questions circulating out there. I hope at least. So I know that'll be really helpful. Awesome. So then we have the, I think I can skip the Music Walk of Fame unless anyone has something on that note. Otherwise, we've got actually.
Holly, there's a meeting with for the second nomination committee scheduled next week. And I've got the estimate from International Bronze, and that's gone to Keith with the hopes that they will become just the sole for this project. So moving a little bit forward again.
Excellent. Dee Dee, can you tell us a little bit about that, the nominating committee, and is that like who all got appointed? Is there somebody from ACAC?
Sure. I reached out to Kelly, Mayor Gertz, in January to say that it was time to select another group, and that ACAC had decided to budget 5 in addition, and that currently there were 2 people nominated in reserve. So Kelly wrote back to say that he thought that was fine, and I asked him if he wanted to invite any additional people. So he gave me 2 other people's if 2 others did not attend, could not attend. So, but those people are attending. So we should have the same committee plus 2 additional ones who were originally invited to attend it through the mayor. So again, it is the mayor's invitation for this nominating committee. And yeah, and I'll be setting it up as a WebEx meeting, and a doodle poll went out when everybody was available. So I have a couple options for next week. So yeah. And once the So, Keith has to, draft a PO based on the quote from the bronze person. And once that PO is put to finance, then I can reach out to streets again with preparation of them fitting it in somewhere in the June, July, August, summer run as they did last time, which they say is the good time for them to do it. ACAC, Andrew is attending. And in the original group, Montu Miller was invited by the mayor, and he was not a ACAC member. So actually now there are 2 ACAC members on that committee.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your continued leadership.
Sure.
With this project. You're really helping keep the momentum, and yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, Holly.
I think then.
Yep, Holly, you muted yourself.
Sorry, just last word. I know that on the because on the horizon, the SPLOST office would like us to meet with the user group for the Firefly Trail. I don't know if you guys have noticed around town, kind of on the east side, the trail is continuing, is getting constructed, but they've not called that user group meeting yet. So we'll keep you posted, but that's just kind of one that's out there on the horizon. Thanks, everybody.
Okay. So new business, and I don't envision this taking a long time. Tatiana, can you go over where we stand on the Arts and Community Awards?
Yes, I'm very happy to report that 47 of the 49, so 47 people, which is all the people who have done any paperwork at all. So we did have the one person drop out. We have 2 that are just completely outstanding, but 47 complete in that they are paid out. So contracts finalized, checks in the mail. Those 4 of those 47 are actually being mailed out, I think, this Friday. So that's going to be the last batch of payments, for anyone that's actually done their paperwork. So that is good. We have had a lot of questions about timeline. I've encouraged anyone who is doing both an in-person event and a virtual, or they were on the fence about whether doing in-person or virtual, to just go ahead and do virtual. Just doing an in-person event is really tricky right now, but there are a few events that really I think there were people that were really hoping to do something in person, and they want to wait. I know Andrew had a question earlier today come in. Marilyn, I think, had another one about timeline and how we can work with it. And I think the main thing is that the money gets spent before the end of the fiscal year, but does it matter when the project gets done in terms of how, I think that's up to us, but I want to get everyone's feedback on that and clarification.
Probably. So I'll have
My
to
vote, since these artists were supposed to have gotten paid in October, and that hasn't happened, I think we need to be really charitable with extensions, because they haven't been able to really start in earnest on a lot of these projects until they got the checks written, and these getting written expediently was kind of the whole point. So my vote would be spend the money in this fiscal year, so by June, but don't worry about the timeline for completion of the project as much, since a lot of these are multi-month, fairly longer duration projects.
And even in terms of spending the funds, as long as the funds have left our account, you know, we're really the only ones beholden to the fiscal year. I don't know if the awardees are beholden to that in the same way. Once the funds leave our accounts, you know, we've spent them within the fiscal year like we're supposed to. So I don't know if that's if we may need clarification on that.
I think all reasonable accommodations should be considered.
Yeah.
Hi. Hi.
Are the awardees, are
Sorry.
the awardees required to make a report of how they spend the money?
So the report, as it stands now, the report is due by, you know, the end of the fiscal year. They have an outline for what needs to be included in that, just, you know, how many people involved, you know, what you did, how you did it, you know, that sort of thing.
But do they have to account for the money itself?
That's all part of the report, but it's just a matter of, you know, are we going to require that by the fiscal year, regardless of if they've done their project or not? So, but yeah, the report is definitely part of, you know, their requirement. It's just a matter of, do we still need that report when we originally stated, if we're going to extend everything else? So that's a good question.
I'd like what Holly suggested, a flex extension to the end of the calendar year. That would extend it as basically as long as ACC has delayed it. So I think that's a pretty fair way forward.
I just want to warn you that they have to cash their check or finance is going to come and hunt you down. Okay, so when they get it, they have to deposit it, whether it's actually used out for their project or not. So please don't ask them to hold on to it until they need it for the project.
Yeah.
So that has to be completed by the fiscal year. And I agree with Holly, they should have a full report by December 31st, 2021, with the opportunity for ACAC to quell all that information together to create a bigger report for the mayor and commission, because you have to remember this was a landmark choice here, and there you'll be asked for what the results of that look like over the course.
Yeah, that was always the plan, to have a report and do, you know, aggregate a big final report for everything. It's just a matter of, you know, when is the absolute deadline for that on our end, and, you know, when do we need to expect that of everyone else, and how flexible we can be.
If it's not an issue with like the city attorney's office or something, then I totally agree. We should definitely do within the calendar year for the reason Andrew said, because it was delayed by a lot longer than we thought it would be.
Yep. The contract language, I'm looking at Article 4, says that the portion of the artwork funded with this grant shall be completed no later than June 30th. But I think that's the piece we're asking for flexibility on. And I can't imagine that anyone's going to be running this stuff down other than us. So.
We're the enforcers. So calendar year.
Any chance that we could put a little something in writing so we're sharing the same information with each of the people?
Oh,
that's a good call.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, I was just wondering if we needed a motion and a vote to extend the deadline to the end of the fiscal year.
That sounds really official since we're dealing with 50 contracts. So I love it. Thanks, Donna.
Can I motion, or do you have to motion?
Motion.
Okay.
Motion away.
Motion to extend the contract deadline or the art completion deadline. Is that it? Until December 31st, 2021, along with all of their reports and completed artwork, I think.
I'll draft something. I'll share that with Andrew and Stephanie and Patrice, and, just verify that, everything we're saying is factual, and, and then we'll send that out to all the awardees so they're updated.
Thank you.
Yeah. So this way it's all coming from one place. We don't have to.
Thank you for your second, Holly.
Okay.
But
Oh, you just
Oh.
voted, Donna.
We didn't vote, I think Donna said.
Yeah, I
Is
think
that what you said?
Yeah, just
Right.
before we
So
voted.
I moved, Holly seconded. All in
Okay.
favor, please say aye.
Aye. There we
Is
go.
anyone opposed to extending the June 30th deadline until December 31st, 2021? Cool, motion carries, I think. Yes.
All right.
It's you, gavel.
Great. Is that it for the Arts and Community Awards?
I have a question. One of our awardees had to shift gears. It's the Christine she was doing the Whitehead mural, and she wasn't able to get approval to actually do the mural from the school.
Yeah, she's one of my outstanding ones that I haven't heard from.
Yeah, so so she has tried to contact. I know she said she contacted the people at Homewood Hills to see if she could do something there, and she hasn't been able to get a response from them. And so she really wants to shift gears, and I wasn't really sure what the process was on that. Does she need to do another proposal, or
maybe should she reach out to Dan Smith? He's kind of the centralized arts person. That's his name, right? I'm not getting it wrong, Tatiana.
That's correct, Dan
Right.
Smith. Mhm.
Right.
She would need to update her. We can help her. I'm happy if you want me to loop me in with that. I'm happy we can maybe help her come up with a project that is still viable that she can meet.
well, she has a project.
Okay.
It sounds very interesting. And I don't know anything about this. It's Rabbit Eye. Are you guys familiar with that at all?
Rabbit eye.
Rabbit Eye.
The animal or rabid, like the illness that you get from being bitten.
Rabbit, like the bunny.
Okay.
But it has to do with, she says here, so let's see. She said, Rabbit Eye is a part of Athens history we need to preserve. There are really only a handful of people who can comment on the history of this area. And Charlie Maddox has family by marriage buried in the cemetery there. Spencer Fry is very passionate about the history as well. And she wants to do a documentary about it. Which I thought, she said that she's already talked to R.L. Carson to do the voiceover for it, and that he has a drone. I don't know.
Sounds, I mean, we funded, a good faith effort was made to do it as originally proposed. That would require some cooperation and collaboration that just isn't happening, whether that's COVID related or not. Yeah, I mean, sure.
So does she have to, I guess, then do a new contract?
Well, she never did any contract at all.
Okay.
So she was, she was one of the two people that haven't done any paperwork whatsoever.
Okay.
So, and I asked her to kind of keep me posted on what she planned on doing. So
Okay.
if she wants to switch gears completely, she would have to basically submit a new proposal, because the proposal is Exhibit A of the contract.
Okay.
So she would just need to write that out. And I could just resend her the application, so she could just kind of refill out the information for the new project.
Okay.
And the other outstanding one, just in case anyone wants to let them know, is with Seth Hendershot. We've tried to get in touch with him. I know Linda and Jan tried to get in touch with him, and myself, and have had no luck. So I don't know if that means that he doesn't want the award or what. So yeah, those are the
I'll
two.
talk to him again because, I mean, I've met with him multiple
Oh,
times.
I've called him, I've texted him, I have Facebooked him, I have emailed, of course.
So the
yeah.
only thing that I can think about, that I can think of, is the way he did his project, the thing that he did in the fall, possibly because it wasn't a free event. He knew that it didn't actually fall under the guidelines, and so he's
Yeah,
gonna
but
wait and try to figure something else out. I mean, he didn't do
there's been zero communication.
contact. Okay, I'll talk to
Zero.
you tomorrow.
000.
Okay.
Thanks, Jan.
I mean, like, that's the thing. We're happy to work with anyone, and you know, most of these projects needed tweaking. That was not, you know, we were more than happy to work with everyone to do it, but they have to, you know, communicate, and they have to fill out this paperwork, or we can't make any payments or contracts to anyone without them filling out these forms. So.
Okay. Anything else on Arts and Community Awards?
That's it. There's a landing page on our website that has, you know, the list of all the awardees that have, that are under contract. And each one is a link to either that artist's website or the project, or, you know.
Get the garbage out of the back, my back.
Okay, somebody mute Donna.
Yeah, I have a question on behalf of one of Holly and I, one of our projects. Their project is to do sort of like, they're basically curating like a public art show photography that will use other people's image, but reproduce it in something like a vinyl poster, cling film that you could put on a wall, kind of like the Athens Banner project. So that person has some specific questions for Linda, actually, that I can email to you, Linda, about, since I know you helped to put that Athens Banner project together. They have some questions about that process and pricing on the materials that you used. But the question I have for this group is, if, you know, they were to get other people's artwork, they're voluntarily, you know, submitting their art for this show to be printed on vinyl or something, what happens to that object, like the you know, the actual print itself? Is that something that, you know, Holly and I had a question about interpretation of the ownership of the artwork, because it sounds in a contract like the city would then own all of those prints, but we're wondering, like, what would happen to those? Where would they live? Is that something that could just go back to the artist? Could they donate them? And this is kind of, I think this is a unique question in our little group. And yeah, what should happen to those?
So Madeline, this is Linda. The way we usually do that, I mean, you can do it however you want, but the way we usually do it is the original art goes back to the artist, and they can do whatever they want to with it. And we usually, I mean, I know they've already signed an MOU, so that may not be how the MOU is set up, but that's what we usually do.
So the way the contract is worded, it's worded that we own everything. And again, that's one of the things that is just kind of, it's a boilerplate contract. So even things that are events that you couldn't own, you know, it still talks about each project like it's a permanent work of art. I think that's a matter of what we're going to enforce. I mean, we don't have any interest in keeping prints of all of these things. So it's a good question and a valid question. It's something that's ongoing. Yeah, it's an ongoing issue in terms of how our contracts are worded. And I don't know if Stephanie wants to elaborate on that more.
Basically, I tried to push back. It already took 6 weeks to get the contract as it was, and the pushback was not well received, so it is what it is.
Well, it's typical that when ACAC has decided it doesn't want to keep some artwork, in this case, might not want to keep these posters, then before you throw it out or put it away somewhere, you're supposed to ask, because you don't want it, you're supposed to ask the artist if they want it.
The artist is allowed first right of refusal.
Right.
That's just a language, but Madeline, are these to be reproduced in other ways? So there's an original and then there's a reproduction, which is the project?
All the artists, sorry, all of our, what's the right word? All the curator, our artists are the person we're working with. They're acting as curator, and so they're taking other people's digital file, and that digital file is being printed on the banner or whatever. There's not going to be a different original. Like it's really just to have it's like the specific output of this. So then, yeah, and it's voluntary. So then we would own the prints, but the artist, we're not signing anything with any artist.
If it's a digital,
curator,
right? Right. If it's a digital, then it remains with the originator, but really, if they're reproducing, should have a contract with each of the artists that they're curating for one-time use for this project.
Yeah.
And so that takes care of like their obligation, and then of course ACAC then becomes the owner of the digital application, the transformation of it, which is not the original work but a reproduction of the original work. That makes sense.
Okay, and then you're saying as part of our decommissioning policies, when the exhibit is closes and the artist brings us the reproductions, and we are choosing at that time perhaps to de-accession them, then we give the artist first right of refusal before we do that.
Cycle them or something.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, and I think the curator, just to be clear, the curator is open to any possibility. We could keep them and put them in a building that might want, like, any option is okay. But that's really helpful that we can relay that to her, Didi. So thank you for that. So the curator should have that contract, which she would totally develop on her own. And at what point would we decide if we do want to keep them, or would we just?
I can answer that.
Yes, thank you.
So all of what Marilyn, Didi, that compilation is all correct and up to date. And that leaves me, the one thing left unsaid is that at this time, to my knowledge, the Athens-Clarke County Unified Government does not have a permanent collection. We're not no part of the arts division at this time is a collecting institution. So we don't necessarily have a venue or a way to accept it and retain it the way it should be. So we don't have long-term plans to retain works, but I guess we reserve the right to retain works, if you will. Does that make sense?
Yes. So then the kind of default position, therefore, is to give it back to the artist? Yes,
and we think of it as, I answered a lot of these questions with the artist, and some of the way I think about it is like, we've commissioned this, so to speak, for the purposes of this time and place. So you are going to share these works in a specific location to the public. You've designated and clarified with us that it's open to the public. That's one of the terms you agree to, that you're going to share the date and time. And you consider that the experience of people coming to see the works. That is what the ACC has purchased, right? That's what we have contributed our funds for. So that part is complete. We've done that. When the event is over, when the exhibition comes down, when the live performance ends, then we have wrapped up, if you will, the experience that we have all contractually entered into.
And I think it's we could also look at the report that we're receiving from the artist to be kind of a record of what happened, an official record that we can keep, so that there is, documentation of how the money was spent and how it was shared with the public. And, in that way, we're doing kind of due diligence around archiving our activities.
Thank you, Helen. And just to be clear, like, I'm not a lawyer and none of us are, to my knowledge, on this call. So, like, you know, we are having a public meeting right now, so I can't say that with beyond a shadow of a doubt these are the appropriate. But I think this is the way that we can, with the information we have and the, you know, this whole process that we've been through, is the best way to interpret this contract and the way we're going to play it out. So at this time. And if you have any artists that have any need more clarity or to be more specifically, I'm happy to talk to them. I've talked to many, and I'd be happy to talk to anyone else who had questions about this specifically.
Just to tag on to something Helen said about archiving, is there still some discussion with the Public Information Office about making some kind of, you know, nice collage of some of these works to be on our website or on maybe a city YouTube page or something?
We need to collect the reports, and we also are hoping that all of our, you know, our awardees will, you know, document their process so that we have a way to share them. And I can talk to PIO about that, but also I'm hoping that we have enough content to create a book, or we have a book or some sort of way that we can document also this, you know, like Dee Dee said, this is really an exceptional moment in time that we were able to share all of this funding and really support artists in our community, and we should appropriately document that. And I would love to see it in like a small book. So yeah, we can explore that, and I hope that we do. That's one of the reasons why we want to ask artists to screenshot, take pictures, take video, whatever you got, like we'll take it. We want to see it all.
Actually, the awardees were just resent all that final report info just today, because they were sent that in the very beginning, but now that most everyone has got their funds, we sent that out as a refresher, so everyone has that info.
Okay.
Excuse me, Tatiana, did you happen to resend? I know you sent it before, but did you happen to resend the logo to everybody? I saw one particular email that I was CC'd on, but you did?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
That was resent out. I don't have anything super high res, unfortunately. That's all I have. I have had a couple people ask me for better print quality logos. But yeah, that's what I got.
Dee Dee, did you develop our logo? Do you have more high res ones?
I think if anyone has it, I do in the depths of my files.
Go down in there, Marilyn, and good luck.
Yeah, if you could find it in Maryland, that would be
We have
wonderful.
we have one at Fast Signs right now that was transferred into an EPS. So I think that we're going to end up with a good one, because we're having it printed in vinyl for the glass cube.
Is that for Jamie?
For Jamie and
Yeah.
for Tabitha.
Oh, great. Because
So,
yeah, Jamie emailed me, and I told her, I said I was so sorry, but
right. So we have
to make a vinyl. Yeah.
Right. We have the graphic guy at Fast Signs translate. So I haven't gotten the file, but when it comes back, if it's a high res, it's for all of you guys, and it says AICA resiliency funding. It's like whatever your blurb is.
Awesome. Thank you, Dee Dee.
Okay.
Those that I have are really best for like a small printing or for digital use, for sure.
Anything else on Arts and Community Awards? Cool. Lastly, our new member call. To my knowledge, we're replacing Holly and Misha. Since terms are end March 31st, why don't we get this posted by next week and give
Okay.
folks till March 10th or so of a deadline, that would give us a couple weeks to read and schedule interviews.
Is the plan still to do a specific call for a District 2?
I don't think we
person?
can plan for that. We can just get with Mariah and Tim to advertise for their district.
And I've talked to them about it, so.
Okay.
My term technically does expire March 31st because I believe I was filling the last
Yes, yours
year of
does.
somebody's. So what do I
Please
do?
stay. Please stay.
I would love to.
Okay, enough said. That's it.
Okay,
That's official.
thank you. Okay.
To my knowledge, that's our process.
Okay, if that's legit, that's good with me. I was gonna be really sad if you wanted to kick me out. So.
Okay. Any news to share from the arts world?
Come see some desegregation stuff at Special Collections.
Yeah, thank you. How long is that on display?
That will probably be up through the summer.
Okay.
I have to double check, but it is on
That's
our
plenty of
website.
time.
Mhm.
We have the 46 juried show opening March 11, 12, and 13 with timed entry. It was our first time doing this digitally. There are 270 artists applied with 720 artworks. There's 166 artworks, I think, in the show, and those are all congratulations to anyone who got in. They're all being received this week. Don't forget, we have window works up by Nora James. Victoria Duggar is in the Lounge Gallery. Athens Together, a documentary photograph show featuring Nathaniel Birkins, Sean Dunn, Lucy Calhoun, and Penny Noah. And it is documentary photography of the rallies and protests locally in Athens. So that shows Athens Together. And we have a small pop-up student show, Ath for BLM, and it's their call for visual arts to support during Black History Month. And that will be going up and opening on Thursday. So, yep.
Dee Dee, for the artists who got in, do they get automatic spots or do they just need to register with everyone? For viewing the juried show.
They can come anytime. The artists who were accepted, they can come anytime. It's mainly we can't do a reception 3 preview days. We're doing 2 nights, a Thursday and a Friday night until 8 for people to be able to come and see the show. And then all day Saturday. But if the artist is coming with their pod, they should register their pod.
So exciting, congrats. I know that was a big project to make it digital for the first time. So good job. And I was gonna say, I think next week is Third Thursday, so you can always look at, thirdthursday.org.com, something like that, for information about all the shows, including everything at the Linden House and George Museum and Attica and others.
Madeline, there is a Zoom conversation with the photographers next Thursday, next week. God, it's already third Thursday in February. And then then there's one in March in the lobby for Luca Carter and Victoria Duggars is March. And then April, Jamie will do one for you all for that project. Okay.
Cool.
You could say that the Duggars show got written up in Burnaway.
Yeah. Duggars is an artist who was curated by my intern, by the Art Center's intern, Lily. And it was a beautiful production and proposal and a curatorial statement, you know, as part of her kind of learning stuff about the running an art center. And it's being reviewed in Burnaway. So it's really exciting for her as a young up and coming curator. So yeah.
Can we hope for any public art trainings coming up? How to be a public artist or anything related?
Are you asking me, Holly?
Yes, Dee Dee, or anyone. Yeah, Dee Dee.
We don't have
Stephanie.
nothing currently scheduled, but we do have a lot of
Yeah, you know, we are tenderly inviting some in-person activities, group activities, some classes at a limited numbers based on the scale of the studios and CDC guidelines, as well as in April, hopefully having in-person meetings again in the community room at 14 and under. So if you all decide you want to meet in person, that would become like a possibility again. So, but it's tender baby steps.
I have an announcement. There is a members showcase at Athens-Clarke, and I have a piece in there. So that show is going through February 28th. And I'm very happy to be also included in the Linden House juried show coming up.
Hey,
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Killing it.
Yeah.
Yay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, all right. Thanks, y'all, for your attention tonight. See you again. Our next meeting, which will also be March 8th. Oh, Holly has a comment.
Yes, Holly, we have I've talked to Stephanie a lot about doing more of that stuff, and once we have a full-time person in place, it'll be a lot easier to do more educational stuff like that and facilitate some virtual things and brochures and things that are more educational in terms of applying to public art projects and putting together proposals and all that good stuff.
I think that's exactly right. We're going to have bigger plans for that once we get our person in place. So
And Stephanie, aren't you doing a lecture at UGA?
yes, it's like
Yeah.
a lecture. It's just it's informal, I was told.
Me too. I'm doing one also the last Friday of February.
Sure. Sorry, you can see my embarrassed face here. I'm doing an informal Zoom call with some of the students from what is it? ICE. It stands for
Ideas for Creative Exploration.
That's the one. And some of that came out of a dialogue that I've been having with Mark Callahan, as well as he and I have been talking to some other folks regionally about opportunities to develop more curators and arts administrators within this within our community and regionally, because that is one element of like how we develop our creative economy. Is like, yes, we want to help artists and we want people to also appreciate, value, and buy art, but we also need folks to curate shows and put together the paperwork to pull off a festival or whatever. Like, that's what arts administrators do. So we're looking at ways to talk about that and develop that in our community. So Mark invited me to speak to some of his students. My master's degree is in arts admin, so I can talk a little bit about like how I arrived at that as arrived at this place where I am now, and so that we can talk about like what are the pathways in your career if you want to work in the arts and things like that. So, just another important part of all of the work that we're getting to do here to talk about how people see art and artists in their life. So, yeah, thanks, Helen.
And Andrew, you're doing, is it the same series?
The same series, February 26th. I think I'm just talking about ACAC. That's all I'm preparing.
I was told it was informal, so I'm just like going to field questions.
I'll just keep adding to the deck that gets better and better each time I present on ACAC.
I'll share something. It's not that cool. It's just a training thing. But thinking of how we invest in artists in our community, I'm doing a certificate program. First time doing an educational program in about 5 or 6 years. Through the University of it's the UNCSA, University of North Carolina School of the Arts. That's what it is. Called Creative Catalyst that I learned about through another talk at Ideas for Creative Exploration. And it's really wonderful so far. So I will probably talk your ear off about that to some of you over the next couple months. It's like a 6-month kind of program that I'm going through, but it's designed for any kind of creative, like to develop their leadership, develop their business skills. So I'm kind of doing it to invest in myself and also invest in artists in our like that I can kind of sow that information back into. And it is just really cool and inspirational. So if there's any opportunity for any of us commissioners to help with the things like Holly, you mentioned about creating just sort of like educational things to help build up other people and other artists, I'm just really fired up about it right now because I'm going through this really great experience. So I'd love to just help out with that or even just talk to anybody about it at any point. So I'm just excited and I want to share with you.
That's awesome. Glad to hear it.
Yeah,
it's a good program.
So far. It's great so far.
I'll be attending there doing like a creative placemaking for the South and Appalachia art leaders in creative placemaking. I'll be attending on behalf of Athens, Georgia. It's later this month. It's like a 2-day virtual conference, which was supposed to be in West Virginia, I think, but they had to move the whole thing virtual. But I'm excited because, like, you know, once again, it's like adding more knowledge and also speaking up to tell people all over how wonderful it is here. And we can talk about all the work that we get to do and then also hear new ideas. So, yeah, I'll be attending that the last couple of days of the month. I think it's like the 24th and 25th of February, I think. I don't know. So anyway, those are news things.
All right. Without any further news, everybody have a great night.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Oh, I'm now the host. Leave.